Timothy Shaddock logró sobrevivir estando 90 días perdido en alta mar. Buscaba estar en soledad, alejado de la civilización. Años antes había sido diagnosticado con cáncer de colon. La enfermedad en ese momento estaba muy avanzada y decidió cambiar su estilo de vida. Dejó de ser técnico especialista en tecnologías trabajando para una empresa IBM y buscó curarse con métodos alternativos, con una vida holística, naturista, bien solitaria.
Bueno, emprendió un viaje por China, por la India, llegó a México poco antes de iniciar la pandemia. Quería regresar a su país natal, a Australia, pero ese país había cerrado sus fronteras y no lo pudo hacer. Compró un pequeño catamarán, vivió en Puerto Vallarta casi 2 años y se preparó para lo que sería su gran travesía. Quería cruzar el Océano Pacífico. Esta es la historia que hoy le vamos a platicar de este hombre que estuvo 3 meses sin poder comunicarse con nadie, sin comida, prácticamente sin agua, en alta mar. Este es un reportaje especial de Todo Personal.
¿Se imagina estar en alta mar 90 días, sin vela, sin motor, sin comida, sin agua? Vamos a ver el día de hoy cómo sobrevivió Timothy Shaddock. Timothy, tell me first a little bit about you. Why were you just on your boat by yourself? Who is Timothy?
That's a good question. I think that was the question I was asking myself. The world had changed so much. We had pandemics and I had my own health crisis as well and found myself a long way from home. And in the end, I decided to sail.
A raíz de que le detectaron cáncer de colon a Tim, él decide empezar a comer todo crudo. Dice que para sentirse mejor. Incluso años antes había hecho ya ayunos prolongados, solamente ingiriendo jugos verdes.
Yeah, I kind of, my intention was to go very quiet and be in nature. That was the most healing place for me. But it sort of led me to so many places, I found myself all over the world, but and in very remote regions of Australia as well. So the pandemic was quite a shock for everybody, and especially for Australians overseas, because we were not allowed home. There was maybe 20,000 Australians that could not get home, so that changed a lot for me.
Before going to La Paz and before getting this catamaran boat, you went to San Miguel de Allende and to Querétaro and all that part of Mexico, and that's where you met Bella. Tell me about Bella. How was your love story?
Oh, my love story. Like all love stories, it was quite tumultuous. There was I was living very differently. I was going out to the mountains, and I was. I guess I'm used to very quiet, rough country. And that's what appealed to me about the middle of Mexico during a pandemic. Everyone was self-isolating, and Bella liked to be climbing out in the mountains, and she just kept following me. So that was how we met, and she gave me a lot of tough love.
Bella no tenía un hogar, y desde que conoció a Shaddock lo siguió por donde fuera. Tim buscaba un mejor lugar para la perra, ya que él, siendo un nómada, sentía que no la podía cuidar.
The tough love, yeah. Well, all relationships have their ups and downs, and I think that's why we loved each other so much, is that we were both kind of gypsies, as it were, in this world. She was running around without a home, and so was I. This was the interesting part, is I felt bad about Bella's not being looked after. Even though she'd come from a rough place, I felt a dog like her needed a better home than what I could give her, especially on a small boat. So I looked for homes for her. She kept escaping and finding me, and so I thought, well, we're meant to be together.
Which is the farthest place you left her and she came back?
It would have been in San Miguel de Allende, and I left her right up in the mountains where she had a big community of other dogs, probably from the litter of dogs. She was still a puppy. And I went all the way into town, and then one day I saw her, I was coming out of Lacoma, and that's quite a big market. And there she was in the food bin, and following me. So, and then she followed me all the way back to another little place called Los Frailes, which is sort of like a place where I rented an apartment there.
De San Miguel de Allende, Tim viaja en coche a Puerto Vallarta. La perra no dejó que nadie la bajara del vehículo. Y así es como llegó, después de horas en carretera, a Puerto Vallarta.
And she was a very strong dog. She would make friends with everybody, but not everybody liked big dogs. So some people had chihuahuas or other things, and she liked everybody, but not everybody liked her.
Tim, there was a story that you gave away Bella.
Oh, yeah, I did not give Bella away. I was always concerned for her health. You know, I'm a dog lover, and so what happened was I was in very poor health when I arrived, and I was offered the opportunity for someone to look after her for me, and I was so grateful for that, you know, because having her survive and be so strong and looked after, she's in a lot better condition now than when I had her, so, you know, I'm very, very grateful for the help with her.
So you bought this boat.
See.
You started living on this boat.
Yeah.
How big was it?
It was a 30-foot catamaran, which is quite small for this type of boat. And we lived on that every night for 2 years together. So we only stayed on the water for the whole 2 years before we sailed the Pacific.
And then one day, what happened in your mind? How did you decide to sail the Pacific?
Oh, well, I'd been planning for the 2 years to sail the Pacific. So it was an adventure that I was always going to turn back from if everything was not right. So I would do many sea trials. The Sea of Cortez is a good place to trial at sea, you know. So it was one of those things where I was testing myself, testing the boat, and it took 2 years, and you had to do it at the right time.
El náufrago quería llegar desde La Paz, Baja California, a la Polinesia Francesa. Y había cruzado parte del Mar de Cortés cuando viajó de Puerto Vallarta al lugar que sería su puerto de salida.
Original destination was it's interesting because in sailing terms, many sailors will say this, especially solo sailors, that you might change your destination depending on the currents and winds. But French Polynesia and Hukahiva was some of the first islands. But I was looking to cross the Pacific in the trade winds and go a slightly different route at different points of the voyage.
Y se preparó para el viaje. Llevaba un desalinizador de agua, muchas latas y una pequeña hornilla para cocinar que perdió en una marejada intensa.
I was trying a lot of provisions, you know, because my boat could not carry a lot of water and fuel. Many boats can carry a lot more than what I can carry, so I ended up carrying a lot of stored food, dried food, canned fish, and you know, I stored. I was growing sprouts for, you know, so the boat was sort of growing its own. You know, I like raw food a lot. I like a lot of raw vegetables, and so that was a way to have fresh salads while I was at sea.
And how many days were you sailing normal until you had the tragedy?
It would have been about 6 weeks of good sailing before I was drifting, and but I was drifting favourably with the currents. So that was one positive part about it, is the currents, the trade winds are all moving in that direction until, because I left late in the season, the hurricanes, and I got caught in a kind of a current which is well known near the equator. I didn't expect the hurricane to be moving out to sea like it was, and I didn't expect to have equipment failure.
How was that day, the day that all the winds started blowing very hard?
That was the wind and the big swell, like, you know, so the boat is a small boat and you've got mostly 7-foot waves coming. And so you're always rocking, so that's what's so tiring, is the boats, even to do anything at all on the boat, it's moving with the swell. So I was worried for Bella, and but I was also enjoying the remoteness of the ocean. Like I have a love for, it's the last wild nature, the last wild habitat, the biggest in the world, really. No lights. The Pacific is one of the purest last wild areas on the planet, and that the fish that were coming out of that spot is renowned for being the purest and the best ecosystem in the world.
Aún estando a la deriva, pasaron semanas enteras antes que empezara a angustiarse. Y fue el día que perdió su arpón. Sin él, no podía pescar.
Look, what happened was my spear gun failed. I was free diving off the boat, which was quite dangerous alone. And I was spear fishing, and the spear gun broke. I caught many before it broke, so the line broke, and then the spear disappeared into the sea. And then some sharks kept biting my fishing lines, and so there were a lot of sharks.
So you dived with the sharks?
See, yeah, the sharks were, they were fine. Like they're not real predators when there's a lot of abundance, and I've never had a problem with sharks before. So it was a very beautiful experience.
Tell me about the day you lost the sails.
Well, that was a tough part because it broke off the top of the mast, and so I was having to climb the mast to try and fix it, and with the boat swaying like it was, that's what was dangerous and fatiguing for me. So I was more worried about, I thought I was okay out there, but I was losing a lot of energy climbing the mast, and it's quite dangerous when the boat's rocking at sea like that.
And where was Bella when the boat was rocking that hard?
Well, this is the thing. She seemed to be so strong and happy. She would walk all the way around the boat, and at times she would slip and fall in the water. And so I was afraid to lose her as well. I pulled her back onto the boat a few times. And
did you have to go in the water to get her?
Both times I managed to just stay on the boat and pull her in. But one time I had to go in the water for her, and I was worried about sharks with her, and I was worried that she was very smart though. She knew, she was a very clever dog.
Nunca les faltó agua potable y eso les salvó la vida.